An eternal, gentle light shone upon the endless garden. Diego and his grandfather, Mateo, walked beside a crystal-clear stream, its soft murmuring the only sound in the peaceful air. The exhaustion that had been etched onto Diego's face on earth was gone, replaced now by a deep confusion. The first lesson had shattered the foundations of his world. "Grandfather, I accept what you've said," Diego began, his voice uncertain. "The right to live, the right to grow. But it isn't possible for everyone. I was poor because of my circumstances. The neighborhood I lived in, the fact I had no special talent. Luck wasn't on my side." Mateo stopped and looked kindly into his grandson's eyes. "Those are good excuses to justify a hard life, Diego, but they are not the truth. Tell me, does mathematics have different laws for the lucky or talented? Does 2 plus 2 equal 5 for a rich man and 3 for a poor man?" "No," Diego said, surprised. "Of course not. Getting rich is exactly the same," Mateo declared. "It is a science. Like algebra, it is an exact science governed by specific laws. When a person learns and obeys these laws, they will get rich with mathematical certainty." "A law?" Diego was incredulous. "I thought it was just luck or fraud." "Number wealth is the result of doing things in a certain way," Mateo explained. "Those who do things in a certain way, whether on purpose or by accident, get rich. Those who do not, no matter how hard they work or how able they are, remain poor. It is a natural law that like causes always produce like effects. Come, I want to show you." Mateo led him to a large, calm pond whose surface was as smooth and flawless as a mirror. "We call this the pond of insight," he said. "It can show us anything from your world. Look at your old neighborhood." The water rippled and a clear image of Diego's street appeared. It zoomed in on 2 mechanic garages, side by side. One belonged to Marco, Diego's friend, whose garage was a greasy, chaotic mess. Marco sat listlessly on a stool, smoking. The adjacent garage, owned by a man named Hector, was clean and tidy. Hector was greeting a new customer with a bright smile and energetic posture. "Do you see?" Mateo asked. "The same neighborhood, the same job, the same customers. If wealth were about environment, shouldn't they both be poor? Why is Hector's business thriving while your friend struggles?" Diego stared, his lifelong excuse of being a product of his environment dissolving before his eyes. "Well, maybe Hector is a better mechanic," he argued weakly. "More talent." Mateo smiled. "The second excuse. Let's look elsewhere." The image in the pond shifted to a street corner where a musician played a violin with breathtaking skill and passion. People passed by, tossing a few paltry coins into his case. The scene then cut to a massive stage where a young singer with a perfectly average voice performed for a roaring crowd of thousands. "Who is more talented, Diego?" Mateo asked gently. "If wealth depended only on talent, shouldn't their places be switched?" "No, my son. The rich are an ordinary group, with abilities no more or less than others. They simply do things in that certain way." Diego was lost, all his justifications collapsing. "So, they do something others don't? Maybe they're very frugal." Mateo shook his head. "Many stingy people are poor, while the generous often become rich. Look at the mechanics again. Both fix engines, but Hector does his work in a certain way that Marco does not. This way isn't about the physical actions. It's about the thoughts and beliefs behind them." Diego moved away from the pond and sat on a rock, his emotions overwhelming him. "But what about you, Grandpa?" he asked, his voice thick as he held back tears. You worked hard your whole life. You were a wonderful carpenter, an honorable man. Why were we never rich? Mateo's face softened with a hint of sadness. He sat beside his grandson. This is the hardest part of the lesson, Diego, because I must admit my own mistakes. I was good at my job, but I did things the way of the poor. I believed the world was a place of scarcity, that for one person to get rich, another had to lose. I was always competing, not creating. I taught your father that an honest living meant hard work and being content with little. He, in turn, taught you. He looked at Diego, his eyes filled with a pained understanding. We were following a law, but it was the law of poverty. It wasn't our talent or our neighborhood that held us back. It was our way. Tears now welled in Diego's eyes as he saw it clearly. His grandfather's pain, his father's pain, and his own, all linked together in a single tragic chain. Cause and effect, Diego, Mateo said, his tone becoming firm again. This law is as certain as gravity. Plant seeds of fear and limitation, and you will harvest struggle. But if you learn to do things in a certain way, a way based on creation, not competition, on abundance, not lack, you will undoubtedly become rich. This is not magic, it is science. But I have nothing, Diego cried out, a final gasp of his old thinking. No capital, no friends, just debt. How can I start? That is the biggest mistake, Mateo corrected him. Capital is a result, not a prerequisite. You don't need money to start. You need to start doing things in a certain way, right where you are, with what you have. The first step is to change your thoughts. You do not need capital to think in a certain way. When you begin, capital itself will come to you. Diego looked down at his hands. He no longer saw them as the hands of a failed taxi driver, but as tools that could learn to act differently. The despair was gone, replaced by a deep and profound curiosity. He turned to his grandfather, a new excitement in his eyes. What exactly is this certain way? He asked, his voice urgent. What are the exact steps? How do I do it? A wide, satisfying smile spread across Mateo's face. Well done, son. That is the first real powerful question you've asked. A question that creates. Just then, Ilera appeared beside them, a calming beacon of light. Her musical voice echoed in the space. You are learning to ask questions that create, Diego, not questions that merely describe your current situation. The way has been opened. Diego looked at them both, his expression now one of sheer determination. He was ready for the next lesson. He was ready to learn the true science of life.